Will the clerk please read the presentation before us this evening?
This presentation will be from the State of the Schools by the Portland Board of Public Education Chair Sarah Lentz.
Okay, great. Sarah, I'd like to welcome you up to the podium. And we want to recognize that you're here with us, relatively new school board chair. Thank you for serving in that capacity. And we welcome you here to council chambers this evening to share with us the annual State of the Schools address with the council and of course the community, and people can see you on Zoom as well. So Peter up there, if you don't mind, there you go. The camera is trained on you, Sarah, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Microphone in a good place? Okay. Beautiful. Good evening, Mayor Snyder, city councilors, and fellow board members and Portlanders. My name is Sarah Lentz, and I'm the chair of the Portland Board of Public Education. I'd like to mention my favorite board member or my fellow board members who are attending tonight. There's a couple here. There's more on Zoom and a few more will be coming in. The board's new vice chair, Mickey Bondo, is abroad and she will not be able to join us tonight. But I'm just really grateful for all those that are staff and other dedicated members of the Portland Public Schools team who are here tonight with us. Before I go any further, I'd like to take a moment to land here together. I ask you to close your eyes and take a breath. Take a breath to become fully present. Take a breath to feel your body and push your feet into the floor, into the land that our city and schools are built upon, the land known collectively as the Wabanaki Confederacy. Take a breath and recognize and thank the original and current inhabitants of this land who are part of our schools and city. When you're ready, open your eyes. Thank you. Just 2 short weeks ago, I was elected by my colleagues to lead this board, which is charged with the following: to be committed to the education of all students, to have a constant awareness of the concerns and desires of the entire community regarding the quality and performance of the school system, and to ensure the employment of a superintendent who will see that Portland maintains a position as an outstanding school system and who will provide that leadership under which the school personnel will carry out the policies of the committee with imagination and dedication. By no means are these 3 charges simple or easy in a normal time. But the last few months, and I would argue the last few years, have been acutely hard and complex. Given our payroll crisis, the resignation of our superintendent, and new board leadership, many people asked if the state of the schools would continue as planned and as the city charter stipulates. My answer has always been unequivocally yes. I know that everyone in this room understands the importance of the state of our schools, that the state of our schools actually is the state of our students. It's the state of our staff and the state of our systems, and I would argue the state of our city. Tonight, I'll be talking through the strengths and challenges I see in each of these areas and the critical role we all have to play in the state of our schools. First, the state of our students. One of my favorite parts about being in the community is talking to our young people about their schools. I always ask them 2 questions. First, what is your favorite thing about your school? And second, if you could change one thing about your school, what would it be? More often than not, our young people answer that they want more recess, more art, and longer lunches. Their favorite thing, besides recess and the new mobile makerspace, which is super cool if you haven't seen it yet, is often a person, a teacher, an ed tech, or a bus driver whom they have a meaningful relationship with. These staff are key elements in our students' successes. Successes like Portland High School senior Liam Faye LeBlanc's being named a semifinalist in the 2023 National Merit Scholarship Program in September. Liam is among only 51 Maine seniors named as semifinalists in the 2023 contest. Or the Deering High School debate team, who triumphed the state championship tournament this past February. Deering's freshman debaters swept the novice bracket. The team's co-captains won first place in the varsity bracket, and the team as a whole winning the sportsmanship award. There it is. Also at Deering, the Black Student Union is thriving. They've hosted Speaker of the Maine House of Representatives Rachel Talbot Ross, newly elected Mana Abdi, Reverend Lewis, and City Councilors Ali and Pelletier. They also organized a super cool fundraiser where they sold both sweet treats and sambusas. Casco Bay High School seniors created a pop-up museum containing their own artwork titled Art in Action, responding to Israel and Palestine. After several years of planning, Portland Arts and Technology High School students built a sugar house and collected, hauled, and boiled over 400 gallons of maple sap. I'm pretty proud of these students. In terms of adult education, with substantial new funding, more than our over 2,000 racially and linguistically diverse students at Portland Adult Education can take advantage of programming aimed at better integrating English language acquisition with digital skills building, workforce training opportunities in the healthcare industry, and an internship to employment program with Hannaford Supermarkets that attracts and recruits foreign-born candidates with professional backgrounds to retail leadership. But even as our students accomplish these incredible things, they continue to face challenges. There are persistent, significant inequities in educational outcomes, discipline, and attendance between our economically disadvantaged students, who are mostly students of color, English language learners, and students with disabilities, and our more advantaged students, who tend to be mostly white. These inequities only increase when students hold more than one marginalized identity. And many of these students don't even see themselves represented at school. In a district of almost 50% students of color, less than 10% of our staff are people of color. These patterns are not new or unique to the Portland Public Schools. They have existed for decades in school systems across the state and the nation. But the Portland Public Schools made eliminating these inequities a priority, and rightly so. For the past 5 years, we have dedicated significant investments to support our students and to improve our staff's equity literacy. This year's $133.1 million school budget, which was resoundingly approved by voters in June, allows us not to backslide on any of those equity investments. The responsible budget balanced fiscal constraints, including a $2.6 million reduction in state education aid, while maintaining current programs and services and covering higher costs for salaries, benefits, and debt service. It's worth noting also that the budget percent increase was considerably lower than the rate of inflation over the past year. These are all very important steps towards achieving equity, but addressing systemic problems does not happen overnight, as we all know. We recognize that there is so much more work to do to support students who have long been marginalized in our community and society at large. While the board has passed policy after policy aimed at dismantling systems and structures of oppression, particularly for students and staff of color, we know that changing policy is not enough. We must shift culture, and that is much, much more difficult. Our middle schoolers know this too. They organized and protested this past spring to communicate that we are not moving fast enough. And to remind us that racism, sexism, genderism, ableism, and other forms of oppression are affecting them every day in their schools. Students and alumni, we hear you, and we pledge to do better and more. I'm so thankful for every student in our district. And now the state of our staff. In the Portland Promise, one of our top priorities is people. We seek to attract, support, and retain talented and diverse faculty and staff who leverage their strengths to achieve our shared goals. In obvious ways, like winning competitive awards, and in less visible ones, such as making sure our students have winter boots and coats, our staff demonstrate their strengths around the clock. Here are a few examples of the way that our staff continue to show up. The crossing guard at Ocean Avenue Elementary School, Miss Gwynn. She's my crossing guard. She knows the names of almost every student that walks to school, and I have never seen her offer less than a smile and a cheerful good morning, even on the coldest and dreariest days. Her positivity radiates and sets the tone for the day, welcoming students and families. Casco Bay High School social studies teacher Matt Bernstein, I think we all know about Matt, was named 2023 Maine Teacher of the Year this fall. Maine Education Commissioner Pender Macon called Matt, who also was the 2022 Cumberland County Teacher of the Year, an amazing teacher, while his students described him as energizing, empowering, inclusive, responsive, and genuine. Matt makes the 5th Portland Public School educator named either Teacher of the Year or County Teacher of the Year within the past decade. Recently, a parent described to me how their child's teacher creates a safe and healthy learning environment. Her child recounted to her that whenever someone is having a hard time in class, the teacher has a quiet moment alone with them to help calm them down and to apologize without being forced. According to the 7-year-old, the rest of the class often offers a chorus of acceptance when the apology comes, for forgiveness and support to the apologizing child for being brave. And the teacher at Talbot Community School, who celebrated the first snow this year by creating a glow party. Students walked into a glowing classroom full of black lights and a disco ball. Other notable accolades this year include special education teacher Ellen Flores of Lincoln Middle School receiving the 2022 Maine Psychological Association Educator Recognition Award for her commitment to advancing positive mental and behavioral health outcomes for Maine students. So needed right now. And Talbot community teacher Cindy Sewell earned a presidential award for excellence in mathematics and science teaching for the National Science Foundation. There are so many other incredible Portland Public Schools staff who deserve recognition. I wish that I could list them all because there are so many. On a broader, more concrete level, Portland Public Schools selectively achieved 3 new collective bargaining agreements over the past year. In January, we approved a 2-year contract with our base union, which represents staff that include bus drivers, custodians, food service workers, computer technicians, and administrative assistants. After a 2-year delay, we also approved a 3-year contract with the Portland Educational Association for Educational Technicians. Finally, this year, we approved a 3-year contract with the Portland Education Association, which represents our district's teachers. I'd like to also right now acknowledge Carrie Dowdy, PEA President, and Jen Cooper, the Ed Tech Union President, who are here tonight. Thank you both for all that you have given to our district and for your commitment to building a strong and meaningful relationship with the board. We are so grateful to these bargaining groups for collaborating with us to arrive at agreements. All 3 contracts recognize the essential work of these employees, and they also increase wages during a highly competitive hiring landscape. Much like the city's employment experience, the extraordinary labor shortage continues to challenge the Portland Public Schools in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. We simply don't have enough educational technicians, substitute teachers, or bus drivers, among other crucial staff. We have had to cancel bus routes as a result and encourage families to carpool or use the metro buses whose fares we subsidize. We've also had to redistribute staff when needed and cancel programming when staff are sick or unable to work. In response to the labor shortage, we are hosting monthly hiring fairs, temporarily awarding staff referral fees, and offering hiring and retention incentives for bus drivers. We're also continuing to invest in ways for interested ed techs to become certified to teach. While these initiatives had a positive impact, staff continue to feel the strain as they stretch to fill the occupancies. Related to the staffing shortage, our people continue to navigate COVID-19 pandemic. Just last week, an educator told me that it seemed like the world had moved on from COVID-19, but that she feels the impact every day, from the learning loss to the social, emotional, and mental health challenges our students continue to confront. As you all know, COVID conditions vary from month to month, week to week, and day to day. Overall, PPS's multi-layered approach to the pandemic, including pooled testing, vaccines and boosters, indoor masking, symptom checks, maximizing physical distancing, and outdoor learning, all help to limit transmission and to keep our schools safe. As always, we look to state medical experts and the CDC to inform our policies, especially as we are now confronting a surge of the flu and other communicable illnesses. Despite the easing of COVID restrictions, the learning loss wrought by the pandemic continues. To address it, we expanded and diversified our 2022 summer offerings using federal elementary and secondary school emergency relief funding to operate the largest summer program in our history. 2,515 students participated, up nearly 350 students from the year before. We held school-based programs at the elementary, middle, and high school levels that were specifically designed for the needs of those ages. We also deepened our collaboration with our community partners like the Portland Housing Authority and Ripple Effect, hosting summer camps and tutoring. The staff who planned and executed this programming are remarkable. They invested hours upon hours into removing barriers, engaging with families and community to maximize how many students could participate. I want to express my deepest gratitude to all of our Portland Public Schools people, our incredible educators and staff for their tremendous efforts throughout this pandemic. If any past or present teachers or staff are present, can you please raise your hand? Thank you. Yes, staff, thank you. Thank you. Since the day in March 2020, when we first closed our schools due to COVID, our community has asked our staff to pivot over and over and do more with less and less. Yet they have worked incredibly hard. They continue to show up for our students every day amid evolving circumstances to ensure that our students stay both safe and learn. Our employees are the glue that holds our schools together, and we are so thankful for all they do. And now to one of the most pressing issues currently facing the district, the state of our systems. As most of you are aware, our payroll system has been in crisis for weeks. While we are slowly and intentionally working our way back to ensuring every employee is made whole, and while many employees' pay issues and questions have been resolved, PPS employees experienced upheaval and undue stress because of both this issue and the way that we responded to it. And for that, we are sorry. We're still learning about all the factors that contributed to this failure, but we do know this. When we initially set up our payroll system many years ago, we did not do it correctly for the nuanced ways our staffing is structured. Additionally, we had staffing problems, and they were a major factor. Our payroll department was understaffed as a result of turnover this summer and then an unexpected medical leave. This resulted in the district having no dedicated payroll staff in early October. When trying to fill these holes, the district subsequently learned that numerous systems for capturing pay requests existed outside the Maine payroll system, and that these requests were being manually entered for each payroll cycle. A lack of employee training and clear understanding of our payroll processes, a payroll system that was not fully built out, as well as gaps in process documentation, have made it difficult for others to step in and support the payroll department. Then the situation was exacerbated by our network hardware failing in mid-November. There are a series of steps that we have taken and are taking to make sure every one of our employees is paid accurately and that we reimburse those who have incurred fees and penalties due to our errors. We worked with the Portland Education Association, which represents our teachers and ed techs, to develop a memorandum of understanding outlining our obligations to make right with our employees, our inability to pay them in a timely way. We've also extended these steps to any other employees affected by payroll issues. Because of the PEA's advocacy, we entered into an agreement with Spinglass Consulting to conduct a forensic analysis of our payroll systems and records, hopefully to be completed this month. Spinglass will also review our processes and make recommendations for improving them. We will pay any fines as required by law or by agreements with our collective bargaining units that stem from delays in paychecks. Additionally, we have established a fund managed by our attorney's office to reimburse all staff for any late fees, overdrafts, penalties, or interest charges resulting from any documented delay in paying staff. Also, in response, we pulled HR and non-payroll finance staff to maximize the number of knowledgeable folks with system access working directly to fix these problems. These people worked around the clock and still are to rectify our problems. Some of their ordinary responsibilities were deferred, but we've made payroll our priority. We've brought in someone from the payroll software company to embed within our team, as well as highly skilled temporary staff. The district senior leadership have all gone out to every school to listen to people's concerns, to document them, and to assure that the central office is focused on solutions. The city finance staff have been incredibly helpful and are offering time, resources, and support to assist us. Thank you. The board is also visiting every school and will continue to meet with any school or group that would like to meet to start to earn back the trust and relationships that we have lost during the pandemic and this crisis. While the district has repeatedly communicated with staff over the past few weeks to explain the situation, the communications didn't come as early or as frequently as they should have. And there understandably has been a significant amount of frustration and disappointment by many of our employees. As I said at a recent board meeting, we have failed our staff. However, we have now made it our first order of business to resolve these issues, and we continue to do all we can to repair the damage done and restore our employee trust. Moving forward, we'll be prioritizing redundancy in our essential functions, and that was also indicated in our recent audit. Critical systems like payroll must not rest on any single employee's shoulders. Our systems must be documented and have controls. City employees have also been extremely helpful in identifying potential resources to help us with this process, and we are incredibly grateful for their support. Outside of our payroll and essential system work, the board approved changing the district's high school preference process, beginning with current 8th graders. Portland students traditionally are able to choose whether they want to attend Portland or Deering high schools. Casco Bay, which is smaller and enrolls only 100 students per grade, uses a lottery system. Because Portland and Deering have no cap on the numbers of students admitted, this has led to fluctuations at those schools over time in their enrollment. Sometimes the fluctuations are very high, which has led to unequal distribution of resources, such as staff and course offerings, between Portland and Deering, and a significant variance in the student composition, with Portland being less racially diverse than the district overall. Under the new high school preference plan, most students will get their first choice of school, but some may not, in order to keep the two schools' enrollment roughly equal and reduce demographic disparities. The board in October also passed a resolution to work with the administration to further analyze how our high schools can be better aligned. The goal is to develop more consistent programming and opportunities for all students across our schools. The board has charged our policy and curriculum committee with developing and delivering a report to the full board by June 2023 on the elements for alignment, the benchmarks for successful implementation, and a timeline. And now for some great news about our systems. Talbot Community School, one of our district's most diverse schools, recently received substantial funding to use towards its community schools work. A community school is a public school that serves as the hub of its neighborhood, uniting families, educators, and community partners to promote equity and educational excellence for each and every child. This grant will support increasing staffing for Talbot's Beyond the Bell programs, which provide students a safe environment and activities after school. Also recently, a statewide report found that the Portland Public Schools are an exception to its conclusion that most Maine schools are failing to incorporate Wabanaki studies 21 years after the passage of a landmark law requiring them to do so. The report states how Portland Public Schools have collaborated with Wabanaki tribes and experts to reconfigure their curriculum with Wabanaki studies at the core. A coalition of teachers, students, parents, and community partners, along with tribal advisors, continues to develop a pre-K through 12 Wabanaki studies curriculum that will weave Wabanaki studies into a variety of subjects. I've gotten to see a little bit of it in action, and it is absolutely beautiful and so full of academic rigor and excellence. The hope is to launch this curriculum in all district classrooms by 2024-25. But learning about the Wabanaki, or the people of the Dawnland, is already underway in many classrooms, and we also plan to share our Wabanaki curriculum statewide. The district's food service department, in partnership with local nonprofits and consultants, has introduced culturally important menu items to high school lunch options this fall. Dishes like a North African-inspired kale and chicken stew were enthusiastically endorsed by our high school students during tastings this past spring. The project is funded by Full Plates, Full Potential and led by the PPS Food Service and local food justice nonprofit Cultivating Community, with implementation and help from several other community partners. In terms of our physical systems and infrastructure, we have continued to make progress this year on the renovations of Reiki, Brezumscott, and Longfellow elementary schools after completing Lyseth Elementary Schools last fall. Once completed, we will finally be providing students at these schools with the 21st century learning environments they need and deserve. We're also grateful to our community for their commitment to supporting these projects and to our teachers and staff for tolerating the ongoing construction. As we all know, this change in our city charter for school budget autonomy did not pass. Still, we hope the issues raised during the debate on question 5 will yield a better structure in the school budget process within the existing charter. We look forward to working with Mayor Snyder and the council and city staff to start those budget conversations early. I'm optimistic we can develop a process that is more accessible to the public, strengthens our relationship with the city, and is one of true collaboration that enables the board and council to work together to make better decisions for our city as a whole. And finally, our superintendent. As I'm sure you know, Superintendent Javier Botana had planned to step down at the end of the school year after 7 years of dedicated service to our community. In light of the district's payroll crisis, however, Superintendent Botana offered his resignation to the board on December 16th. We accepted his resignation, and it will take effect at the end of January or when an interim superintendent is secured. We are immensely grateful to Superintendent Botana for his deep contributions to the district and appreciate his ongoing support during this period of transition. His vision and work will continue to move us forward. We will ensure that our next full-time superintendent also has just as deep of a commitment to equity. To do this, our superintendent search committee, made up of 8 representatives of stakeholder groups in the Portland Public Schools community and 5 board members, recently hired Alma Advisory Group. They're a professional search firm whose work is in alignment with our equity goal. Led by women of color, Alma focuses on organizational capacity building and equity and diversity in hiring. And recently competed superintendent searches for the Denver Public Schools, the Cincinnati Public Schools, and Eugene School District 4. Alma uses competency-based screening processes to mitigate bias and to stay grounded in the skills that are most important to the role. As a co-chair of this committee, I'll be meeting with them this week to start to plan focus groups and community gatherings so this search can be deeply informed by our community. We expect the new superintendent to be hired by May and fully take the reins of the district on July 1st, 2023. Looking ahead, we as a board and district have a lot of work to do as we continue to center equity and strive to meet our other Portland Promise goals. But as a reminder, we live in this city together. Portland is a city with profound diversity and cultural opportunities, as well as remarkable physical beauty. This past May, U.S. News and World Report named Portland one of the top 10 best cities to live, and the quality of education was one of the key metrics used in determining the 2022-2023 rankings. Schools are an essential part of this city, attracting families and people that ensure its continuation. But as schools nurture and enliven our communities, so too do our communities enrich our schools. Our students cannot learn and grow in the classroom if they are struggling at home. Teachers and staff cannot focus on their critical careers if they don't earn a living wage. Without city services, students and staff lack transportation, nutrition, healthcare, internet access, books, so many things. Let us remember that the city and its schools are inextricably linked, not opposing entities, but rather close collaborators. I bring this up specifically because the end of the emergency rental assistance program is on the horizon, and it represents huge financial and housing insecurity for many members of our community, and our students, staff, and schools will suffer as a result. Amid historic inflation and high fuel costs, the months to come will carry hardship and heartbreak for so many of our families in ways I think we have never seen before. The disparities that we all in this room seek to minimize through the strategy of the Portland Promise are tied deeply to what goes on in our communities. The roots of these inequities are complex and beyond what any one school district can solve alone. Recently, I talked to a music teacher from one of our schools. They told me that they asked the young people in their class to come in ready to be an ensemble. Each young person is asked to bring in their strengths into the classroom, to play their part, their individual part, the best they can, and to work with the others to form an ensemble, a collective whole that surpasses any single individual. I invite you all to be part of this ensemble, to invest time, courage, steadfast commitment, and resources so that we can accomplish the goal that we all share: achieving equitable, successful outcomes for all the students in the Portland Public Schools. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you to your school board colleagues for being here tonight, and to so many staff people who are here with us in person and on Zoom. We've got 33 people with us on Zoom tonight. You've had a busy couple of weeks, and we all appreciate the energy and the integrity and the transparency that you're bringing to your role. At this time, I'd like to ask if any of my colleagues have any comments that they'd like to share. We don't take public comment on this kind of presentation, but past practice is that if anybody wants to speak up, you're welcome to. Certainly don't have to. I know that we're all very grateful for your presentation this evening and the work that you put into it, again, during such a busy time. Okay, Councillor Fournier.
Thank you so much. I would stand, but my foot is hurt. I really just wanted to say thank you for the comprehensive overview. And I know we as a council have navigated so many difficult things over the last 2 years that I've been on council, going into my third year now. And so share in the hardship and the frustration and the pain that comes with knowing that your system didn't work for your families and for your children. And I really just commend you for owning up to it and saying, okay, it didn't work, and now we have to move forward. We have to make things better, and really just appreciate your words tonight and that commitment and what we've seen in partnership with our city finance members, and able to try and make corrections for your staff to move things forward. And so it's not easy. It's painful, and it's hard to do it and go through all of that in a very public way. So to all of you board members who have gone through that, thank you so much for continuing to show up. This is very, very hard work, very critical work. And you do get a lot of feedback from the public, both positive and constructive. And so just thank you for continuing to show up and continuing to do the work, and really appreciate your report out tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor.
As many probably know, you've got 4 members of the city council who have been school board members. Councillor Ali, Councillor Rodriguez, Councillor Trevorrow, and I have all served on the school board. And so we admire and thank you all for your service, as do all of our colleagues on the city council. But it's special work that you do for the families in our community, and of course, the students in our schools and the staff who support those students. Like you said, from everybody from teachers to ed techs, bus drivers, food service folks. There are so many people doing great work, and we appreciate that. And I appreciate your reference to an ensemble, because we are that for sure. So I am ready to work with you, eager to work with you all. And as we move into the next stages of work that we've got together, including the budget, yes, we are here and we're eager to do that work together. Counselor Zarro and then Counselor Pelletier.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also want to chime in, and I just want to say thank you for showing up in your humanity and your vulnerability. In a short period of time since you've taken on this role, you've shown exactly the type of leader that you are and you're going to be. And it's collaborative and it's compassionate. And I just want to say thank you to you and your colleagues who I've been able to have the honor of speaking with quite a bit lately. This work at the municipal level of government is intimate. We are the first responders to our community. And sometimes that is a really wonderful thing. And sometimes that really hurts. And I hope the community is watching, and I think they are, and seeing that you are putting your best foot forward. And oftentimes leadership is not about being the best. It's about making the people around you better. And I'm really looking forward to being able to work together. I will be on the finance committee, so I'm looking forward to working with you on that. But I want you and your colleagues to know that you have support here. We are your partners, and we are going to work with you through the not so fun stuff, but also the things to celebrate that you've outlined here tonight as well. So I just want to thank you and remind you that you are not alone in doing this work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Next to you, Counselor Pelletier.
Thank you. Sounds like you've had a pretty boring couple of weeks, huh? Slow start to being the new chair, but thank you so much for the address, for the information. And I just wanted to share briefly, because my colleagues have pretty much said everything I wanted to say, but I always say one of my favorite parts about being a counselor is I get invited often into spaces with young people. So I was with the Daring Black Student Union. Most recently, the students of Breakwater School joined me in here and we had a great conversation, being invited to Portland High School, being invited to King Middle School. And so it's been really great to be in spaces with young people often because of this role. And they are such a dynamic and wonderful group. I bring them up very often in every space that I'm in. I'm like, you should hear what the 12-year-olds are saying. You should hear they're so amazing and are so much further ahead and so much braver than I ever was at that age. And that in itself is also a direct reflection of their educators and of the staff. And that's, I think being able to see that as a counselor and as somebody that, is really trying hard to make sure that we're advocating for all voices. I just think that's really amazing. So, I appreciate all of the work that you and all of your board members do. We obviously know that this is really hard work. It's a really, challenging to have a microscope on you often, but I appreciate, the address and everything that you do. And again, the staff and the educators, because we have such great students in Portland, and it's been a true pleasure and a privilege to be invited into those spaces. So thank you.
Thanks, Counselor. Counselor Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to sit down to talk just so that I can think a little bit better when I'm sitting down. I appreciate, I had an opportunity to deliver the State of the Schools address twice. Once in person, as I'll say very fortunate to be able to do, because the importance, as you said, of that message, and as the charter obligates it, there's a reason why it needs to happen in this place that is intended for the public to be engaged. And the second time that I delivered it, it was over Zoom, amidst still our lockdown stage of the pandemic. Both very different themes on two very different parts of our history as a public school institution. What I've learned, and certainly what drove me to run for city council, is what you stated very clearly in your address, that many of the issues that keep our students from thriving and fully taking advantage of all the great things that our great educators provide every day are the conditions of their lives outside of the schools, right? Living in poverty, having challenges that interfere with the most basic needs of human life. And we know that if we don't have that foundational piece, the hierarchical needs of humans, we can never achieve them. And so I thought that this seat allowed me a better opportunity to have an impact into those issues. And as most public servants, we try to find the place where we're going to be most effective. But the work itself is so much bigger than any individual, certainly bigger than any one superintendent. And it'll be around for all of us to play a small role in as we take on these roles in small little 3-year terms in public office. The Portland Promise, the strategic plan, I think that was never intended to be eternal. I encourage the school department to, as any other strategic plan and any other comprehensive strategy, to revisit it and think about what new leadership brings to the district. I appreciate very much the sentiment of carrying over what Superintendent Botana brought in and the energy around equity. But any organization will do itself a great service in revisiting that strategic plan. And not that the Promise hasn't been constantly revisited, but I think that there's an opportunity here for the district to reaffirm that commitment in whatever new shape it takes with whatever process you find is appropriate. The challenge that public service faces, is that inclusion piece, right? How do we get all the voices on the table? How do we listen to everyone that's going to be affected by our decisions? And, the truth is that we don't. A lot of times we're going to have to do without being fully informed. We're going to have to kind of take a chance. And I don't want to talk about how difficult that is, but I did want to frame the decision of new leadership in the way that I viewed it. A superintendent, and I've used this in the past, a superintendent is very much like an operating, or like a software that you put into a computer, the operating system that you decide. Because of the nature of where superintendents come from, you're going to have some folks that have a really strong pedagogy background and a very strong, like Javier did, drive for equity. And then other folks are going to have a very strong operational background. And whatever that kind of operating system that you inject into the bigger scheme, then, that's going to be the strength of that leadership. But again, our challenges are so broad that, that person at the leadership, honestly, most folks can't talk back the timeline more than 2 superintendents before Javier, right? So these people come and go, but the work remains. I'm probably getting way more wordy than I anticipated, but what I'm trying to say is, the work is ongoing. It does require community. It requires all of us to be at the table. Sometimes it's going to require some guesswork. Sometimes we're going to fail miserably and fall on our faces. And then our constituents will remind us really quickly of that. And other times we're going to have small victories to celebrate that help us advance to the next steps. I'll pledge, like my other colleagues have done, our support as a body, and certainly our attention to the work. And I'll leave it at that. I'm always available here if any of you ever want to talk to me about these issues.
Thank you.
Again, Chair Lentz, members of the school board, thank you for being here tonight. Members of staff, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate your attendance, again, in chambers and on Zoom. And we look forward to the coming weeks and months that we work together in response to some of the challenges that you named. But also, as my colleagues have noted, you named an awful lot of good things happening, and we really appreciate that.